just being around the house and getting some things done, I was listening to a podcast on YouTube that I typically tune into. And the host and the guests were having a really good conversation about feminism, the sexual revolution, the hookup culture, and what that means today. And one of the things that one of the guests kept repeating is that casual sex is what liberation is. That's what freedom is. And the more she said it, the more I had to stop and think. And I began to question if casual sex and the hookup culture and sexual freedom is truly freedom, why are so many people who are engaging in it lost and confused and wounded, not just uncertain or unsure, but they seem to be just totally lost? And I'm a millennial and I'm going to be 40 in a few months. And I can't believe I'm saying that. And while hookup culture is certainly nothing new, what I am seeing now is something totally different. It's more in your face, it's more constant, more normalized, and in some weird way, it's been spiritualized even, especially when you look at Gen Z and even some of the younger millennials, this hookup culture and this concept of just casual sex has become just a normal way of life. It's become content, which unfortunately and yet inevitably has made it entertainment. It's become so loud that it doesn't even shock us anymore. Like I remember just being completely amazed at the idea of the woman who slept with 1,000 men in one day and it was recorded. We are so desensitized to it that there doesn't seem to be anyone who's stopping and asking, hold on, is this actually helping us or is this hurting us? What is going on? And I promise you, this isn't about judging people because we have all made mistakes. We've all done things we are not proud of. This isn't even about pretending to be perfect because perfection is an illusion. It's not about creating shame or promoting shame. It is about being honest, though, honest about what this idea of casual sex and open relationships is doing to people emotionally, but not just emotionally, mentally, relationally, and of course, spiritually. So I want to start with a couple of facts so you don't just think this me sitting up on some high horse because again, we've all made mistakes. And I want to start with facts because even if someone doesn't believe in God, even if they don't subscribe to the whole construct of marriage or monogamy, truth is still truth. And the data is saying what a lot of people seem to be afraid to admit out loud. There's a 2021 study that was published in the Journal of Sex Research that followed about 3,000 students across multiple US colleges. And I think I could use that even for us, just because a lot of our students or people we know travel to the US for university and for college. But the result of that study shows that the more often students engage in casual sex, especially when it was disconnected from emotional intimacy, the more likely they were to report things like anxiety, depression, and distress afterward. And the sad thing is that the results themselves weren't even subtle. There was such a strong connection between casual sex and psychological distress. And this was especially seen when sex was used as a tool to avoid loneliness or just to boost self esteem. And that kind of damage, it tracks. And it does so because God didn't design us to disconnect from our bodies or disconnect our bodies from our hearts and from our emotions. We were not created to keep breaking off pieces of ourselves and handing them out as though they were samples of orange chicken in Florida Mall, hoping somebody would come back, and get the whole meal. That's not what we were designed for. That's not the purpose we were called to. And it's certainly not what sex was designed for. That isn't even how intimacy works. And I think that's why so many people confuse intimacy with sex or they use them interchangeably. That's not how it works. That's not how wholeness is built. The reality is there are emotional and psychological consequences to repeated casual sex that go a lot deeper than we actually think. So, I think there are three major things that I would have come across when I was just going through it. And the first one is emotional numbness. When we keep giving ourselves away, but there is no real or substantial connection, no real safety, or not even the illusion of safety, it's just transactional. We start shutting down emotionally. We learn how to perform, but not how to truly be present. The second thing is there is identity confusion, and that's a topic by itself. But as it relates to this, when with this identity confusion, we start to wonder if we have to be desired in order to be considered valuable. If being chosen in someone's bed is what means that we are lovable, if our body is the only measurement of our worth. And the third thing is that it it reveals or highlights future intimacy issues. Repeated breakups and disconnection, they make it harder to trust and to be emotionally available when something that's actually substantial, something that's authentic, something that's real does actually come along. And that ain't just my opinion. So I don't want y'all to think again, this is me sitting up on a high horse and, throwing this down your throat. There is research from the Wheatley Institute that shows that people with a higher number of past sexual partners, they are more likely to experience lower relationship satisfaction. There is less emotional closeness and they have more trust issues. And there seems to be an even higher incidence of divorce amongst them. So, while today's culture and social media and society seems to say that more sex, free sex equals freedom and liberation, and that's the sign of autonomy and agency, what we are actually seeing is more people that are feeling disconnected, they are feeling ashamed, and they are unsure of who they are. And they are uncertain of their identity without that physical validation. That's what makes it so scary. And let's be real, why is sex just everywhere right now? Why is it so loud, so pervasive, so in your face? And it's not just because people are free. This is not some celebration of freedom. It's truly because sex sells. It gets views. It makes people click. It holds your attention. But I want you to know just because something is common, just because something is everywhere, doesn't make it healthy. We are not built nor designed to consume that much sexual stimulation and that much sexual content and not be affected by it. We were not built to give our bodies away and then pretend as though our hearts and our emotions won't feel it or be impacted by it. Now, just because this is what this channel is about, I want to shift to the spiritual side of this because I believe that behind the emotional and psychological effects, there is a spiritual wound that God is trying to heal. And with anything that we abuse, it's because we're trying to mask something. We're trying to put a band aid or something or numb ourselves to something. It doesn't just have to be sex, it could be anything that we abuse or misuse. So I want to say this clearly. God does not call us to purity because he's trying to be controlling or because he's a prude and he just wants to torture us. He isn't saying to us to honor your body because he wants you to feel guilty. He calls you to a higher standard because he wants you to protect your peace. Your peace is possibly the most important and strongest part of your spiritual armor that you could have because once that is weakened, you give the enemy access. And once he gains access, he tries to set a foothold. And it's not just to do with the sin action, It's because of what sin does to us, not just about our behavior, but what it does to the rest of our lives, what it does to our hearts, our minds, our sense of identity, our sense of self, even our sense of purpose. 1 Corinthians 6 and 18 says to flee from sexual immorality. Whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. There is something that is very unique about sexual sin. It touches not just the body, but also the soul. That's where our decisions are made. It creates this deep rupture between what we do and who we are meant to be, because the enemy loves using what you do to define you. Galatians 5 reminds us that one of the fruits of the Spirit is self control. That's not repression. That's not restriction. That is love wrapped up in protection, or protection wrapped up in love. In love, God gives us boundaries because He knows how dangerous unrestrained desire can be. Desire without direction leads to destruction. Desire without direction leads to disaster. But let me pause here and say this, because I know that someone listening may just very well need to hear it. This is not about performance. This is not about perfection. This is not about getting it all right or pretending as though you've never made mistakes, because I've said it before and I will continue to say it. We have all made mistakes. We all wish there are some things and people we did that we wish we didn't. We all fall short. We all have moments that we're not proud of. We've all said yes when Jesus knows we should have said no, when we knew we should have said no. So, again, this is not about performance or even the illusion of perfection. What it truly is about is grace, His grace. And it's His grace that is not only strong enough to forgive you, because I promise you, He has. It's His grace that's strong enough to heal you, to heal the thing that you were using destructive behaviors to mask. If you've been stuck in cycles of hookup culture, casual sex, from one bed to the next, from one man or woman to the next, if you've been stuck in shame, which the enemy loves to use against you, if you've been trying to convince yourself that it don't really hurt when it really does, you don't have to keep pretending. You don't have to stay there. And I promise you, I promise you, I promise you that despite what the enemy says, despite what your past may try to say, despite what the people around you may try to say, you are not broken beyond repair. The Holy Spirit is more than able to heal you from the inside out, because that's how He works. He can restore your sense of worth, and He can help you to forgive yourself. And we know that's the most difficult thing to do, but He can help you do it. He can help you not just navigate, but walk in a completely brand new direction. He can help you stop the numbing. He can heal the thing that you're trying to use this or any other destructive behavior to numb. He can help you to stop searching for love in places that only offer distraction and destruction. But this is one thing that I've learned. Healing begins the moment we are willing to be honest and tell the truth, not just to God, but to ourselves. This is not an invitation to go ahead and talk your business. Leave that between you and Jesus. So let me ask you a question, and I want you to really sit with this. Is the version of freedom that you've been living, right? This life without boundaries, this life without any kind of restriction or guardrails, is the version of freedom that you've been living actually making you free? Because if it's leaving you battling anxiety, if it's leaving you with more confusion than clarity, that you're questioning who you are, your sense of worth, if it's costing you your peace, which already is too expensive, costing you your sense of self, costing you your connection to God, then perhaps, it's time to rethink what freedom actually looks like. It's time to reevaluate what freedom really means. God isn't trying to keep you from something. He's not withholding anything from you. He's trying to keep something in you. He's trying to preserve something in you. And those things that he's trying to preserve are your joy, your peace, your emotional clarity. He's trying to keep those things intact. You were not created to be used. Baby, you are not disposable. You were not created to chase validation because Jesus died for you while you were still in sin. He gave his life for you and you could do nothing for him. You were not created to trade your body for crumbs of affection. So if you've been there, maybe if you're in it right now, know this, just accept this. You don't have to go back. You can start again. You don't have to live your life in cycles of regret and shame and fear and feelings of unworthiness or feelings of being unlovable or unloved. You don't have to keep saying that this is my behavior and my behavior is what defines me. This is just who I am. You can draw a line today and say that this action, this issue, this situation does not get the opportunity to define me anymore. You can choose peace. You can choose wisdom. You can choose purpose. And if you don't know exactly where to start, I encourage you to start by asking God to heal your heart because that's where a lot of the decisions that lead to brokenness stem from. And it's because when your heart is whole, your choices start to shift. That's what grace does. Grace doesn't just forgive sin, it transforms your life from the inside out. It helps you with renewing your mind and walking in the light of his word and the calling he has over your life. It gives you something to think about. It gives you an opportunity to think about what life can be like should you have the chance to make a different decision. So if this has given you something to think about, share it with someone because we need more people that are willing to have these difficult conversations. We need more people that are willing to say, I've tried it the world's way and it ain't working. And I could tell you, I've tried it the world's way and it didn't work. We need more people that are pointing others back to true healing and the true source of healing, which is only Jesus Christ. Again, you are not too far gone. You're not too broken. You're not too damaged. You haven't done that much bad that you cannot be healed, cannot be made whole. It's not too late. And that's where I'm going to end this. You don't have to stay in the cycles that hurt you, even if the lie is they are your access to freedom or the things that can help or heal you. You can walk in true freedom, the kind that actually heals, that actually restores, that actually makes you whole. And I am praying that you do.